Good evening, my Trues Clues aficionados. I hope that you've been staying safe out there, paying attention to life's trues clues around you. And I wanted to talk to you tonight about Tinder. And I know I usually record videos, and I do have a video that I wanted to post, but there was just so much to say on it that my mind just kept flying around the whole time. So I just kind of wanted to come in and do a live chat on it and see how this works out tonight. It's my first one, and I'm excited. And so, with that, let's break into it as the game is afoot. I know online dating has been around for a long time. Back when it first came out, you would sign up and have like cards that you would fill out, and they would do like chemistry to get you matched up with different people. And this was like in the 60s and the 70s when dating first started online. It definitely has come quite a bit of ways since then. Tinder is used as a lot for hookups and provides the location of the person. The problem is that women are often looking for something more and men are looking to have sex. And of course, that's not a surprise to anybody at all whatsoever because we are on different planets. Remember, men are from Mars, women are from I don't know where. And so, um, there is a dark triad of personality traits: Machiavellianism, narcissism, psychopathy, and social sexuality that correlates to Tinder use, believe it or not. The results revealed that Tinder users had higher scores on the dark triad traits and social sexually compared to those of non users. I mean, they think it's freaking porkies out there every night. Hit 'em and get 'em, knocking boots, getting it out, getting your little notches on your headboard, as we used to say, or on your belt. You make little notches for as many people as you've been into. That danger is so particularly higher now than back when those things started back in the 50s as jokes. And I think most people didn't engage in this type of outward sexuality that goes on now. Women are often asked for sexual favors even before somebody says hello to them. And I think for women who've been out on Facebook and on the dating scene, online or not, totally know about this. Some men are just extremely forward, and I guess these are the type of guys that are attracted to Tinder. And the messages that proliferate across these platforms and do affect both men and women. But women appear to be disproportionately affected by these types of messages. I mean, I don't think that we all are out there being rude as women when we're trying to express how we like a guy. I know there's probably a certain amount of us out there that do, but I think there's a greater amount that don't. And I think more guys are easier to talk using what we would call quote unquote raunchy language. And so that does put, a different spin on everything. One study showed cisgender, heterosexual, and bisexual men seldom express concerns about their personal safety while using these very same dating apps. While women had a higher concern, why are interactions like these allowed to perpetuate? Well, part of the answer lies in the way these platforms are policed, believe it or not. And of course, it always comes down to money by the companies and how much they're willing to do to keep their patrons safe, both by the companies who make them as well as larger government structures. We've heard so much on internet safety and accountability, especially with Google and Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg and all this involvement in China and splitting the people up and all that kind of thing. Well, there's something that's going on here that they're not talking about too much. Is there any accountability in this situation? It is very easy for the abuser to delete the proof and to block the victim on Tinder. And Tinder does very little to assist the victims to be able to find these people and be able to persecute them because, of course, that's going to affect their bottom line. So, it has introduced a learning machine, learning to detect abusive messages and language, and then ask the writer to reconsider sending the message before sending it. And what the hell is that? I mean, if you're still going to be able to send perverted, decrepit things to people, I'm sure there's people that are looking for that, but not everybody out there wants that. I mean, you should have an established agreement about that. I've always thought that there's a hand for every glove, but you got to be patient and wait and look for it. Tinder has also had a history of not assisting victims at all, and many users agree. The only thing that we have at our disposal is a block button. In order to block somebody, you have to experience the negativity of that action before you can block them. I mean, I guess there's a certain amount of common sense to that, but a lot of people just look creepy out the door and you don't want to have anything to do with them and you want to block them then, but then you can't and they just you saw that they were a pervert and then they act like a pervert and you got to put up with it. What's that all about? One of the biggest concerns is sexual violence that can occur when users meet up in person. Even though there is an uptick of female dating app users taking precautions such as charging their phones or informing family and friends of their plans, daters remain vulnerable to sexual violence. And I have been on a few internet dates. I always made sure to meet a person in public and, all those things that they told you. Let somebody know where you are. Meet somebody like a Saturday during the day. Don't make it at night. And I always did that type of thing. But what's going on here even puts you at risk, even in those situations, which totally freaks me out and scares me because, of course, like I said, I did quite a bit of online dating back in the day. Match Group, which owns around 45 dating apps, only screens for sex offenders on its paid for apps. Did you hear me, people? They only screen for sex offenders on the paid for apps. And not very many people want to pay for these things. They want to find love for free for whatever reason. So, women, please be aware that if you think that you're being protected by a background check and this person has been checked out, absolutely not. You can be dating a rapist, you can be dating a murderer, you can be dating some kind of, I don't know what, some kind of sexual pervert. So remember, not on free platforms like Tinder, OkCupid, and Hinge. There is a loophole in the American Internet Law, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which dictates sites can't be held accountable for harm that comes to third parties through their platforms. That means screw you, and it's all on you, and nothing on those dating platforms. It's like WTF. And again, big government and big money working hand in hand to make sure that they get the money and to hell with whoever is out there trying to make it work for them. That means this multi-billion-dollar industry mostly isn't held to task for abusive interactions. And it's incumbent on the platforms to introduce measures such as the ones Tinder and Tinder and Bumble have implemented. The BBC contacted 6 different online dating platforms, but all of them declined to be interviewed for the piece. Isn't that just something? Men have to be informed how their actions are affecting women. And I think there is a sense of frustration on men. There's a lot of women around. They're not sure they should even try to meet women anymore, try to pick them up. How do you meet somebody now and seem appropriate? But then there's this group of crazy men out there. They're just looking to knock boots and, whoever they can find to do it, as long as there's something going on there, they're willing to get out there and do it. These are the men, I believe, that dramatically underestimate the impact of their abuse. They think it's all innocent boys' games, child playing around or whatever. These ingrained notions about gender roles and often misogynistic social attitudes must be dissolved for a larger process to take place. But this also means that in the meantime, women need to stay safe and be aware that there's a bunch of assholes around there that don't care if you're a woman or if you have feelings. The fact is that you are a female and you have the right body type for them. And that's basically what they're looking for. Which also means women need to stop accepting these kind of interactions as a price of doing business. Now, isn't that hard? When you've been catcalled all your whole life, being told, oh, little lady, and all these little things your whole life, to really feel that you can break that mold. But we all have to work on it together. Even though 80% of the users say they are looking for long term relationships, everybody knows that nobody is on Tinder looking for a long term relationship. Tinder is more of a hookup app, and most of the matches ignite their bomb out after a month. 13% of users reported relationships lasting longer on Tinder is that it can encourage compulsive use. I mean, the swipe, 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 and you want to be on there all the time, looking it up, making sure that you have the best hookup date on that night. Most of that goes on, and it's going to continue to go on after a relationship happens because um, the average user spends 35 minutes a day on Tinder. It combines compulsive smartphone use with ego gratification. So if you're vulnerable to either, and who's not on their phone all the time, looking at Facebook, YouTube, whatever's out there, Pinterest, and apparently Tinder too. And Tinder is appearance based, and it is tricky too. Anyone can post a fake photo or an old photo, and you don't know it until you've met him face to face. Now, Lord, I have had this old photo thing happen to me. I went up to a bar in Morrison and I was going to meet this guy, and we were just talking and friendly. It really hadn't been an extremely romantic thing. We were looking for regular dancing partners to be able to go out on the weekends and have fun. So he posted this picture of himself, and I go into the bar, and of course, it's the middle of the day, and it's a restaurant bar, it's not just a bar. And I walk in, and I'm sitting down, and I see this guy over there sitting by himself, and I have no clue that that's actually the person that I was talking to online because his picture was like from fucking 20 years ago. And I was completely in shock, but of course I rolled with it because I wasn't planning on having, anything romantic going on. I was just hoping we could be friends. But it is a big lesson. 30% of Tinder users are married, but whether their spouses know that they're on the dating app or not is another situation. I'm sure there's some open relationships, where that does happen. But I bet you most of these people out there are screwing around while they're married. Their spouses don't know. And their spouses don't know what could possibly be brought home to them either. Like, what the actual hell? Scammers thrive in online dating pools, so you have to guard your identity on Tinder or any online dating space. Let me just say it out loud, ladies. Nigerian love scam. It's gone all over the world and all kinds of foreigners are doing it, but it's the same premise. Nigerian love scam. And it's wise, especially for women, to be careful on their first date. Again, tell a friend when you're going, when you'll be back, blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you, all of that stuff gets put to task with this Tinder bullshit. So keep that in mind, and let's get into the cases I wanted to cover. The first one is a person, and her name was Sydney Lou. And she hit it off with a woman on Tinder and apparently really liked her at the first meeting, but, didn't assume anything. Then there was a second date, and that went well. And she didn't know if it was going to be her. She went out for a third date, but she didn't know that it was going to be her last date or that it would be one of her last days on Earth. Two people would later be charged with the murder of Lou, a 24-year-old Lincoln, Nebraska woman whose body was found dismembered in garage bags and thrown into a field in Bailey. Bosley, 24, and Aubrey Trail, 51, are currently being held in custody in Saline County waiting for first degree murder and improper disposal of remains. That must be for the dismemberment. Loof's last picture was via Snapchat November 15th with the caption, "Ready for my date." How foreboding. How foreboding. And I bet she was pretty happy to be going out on that date too. You know, that anticipation you feel and you want to look your best and your heart's just all happy that you met somebody and you got that chemistry thing going on and you're feeling really good about it, hoping that better things will come out about it. You certainly aren't expecting to go out and be killed because of it. Um, she had parked, let's see, she had went out with the guys. She never came back home again. Her car was still parked in the driveway of her home. Her mom reported her missing November 16th. Her remains were discovered December the 4th. A friend was the last one to hear from her directly and texted her and told her about the date and said how great it was and how excited she was to be going out with this person again. And law enforcement started to looking into it. It's funny because I've heard of a lot of people in the past that have been abused and sexually raped by people they have met on Tinder. And that's what I was saying about how you think you're going to a nice restaurant or upscale bar to meet them, and these guys are so freaking hungry for sex. Should you happen to get up and go to the bathroom, many women have been followed by these skanks who will follow them into the ladies' room and just rape them there in the bathroom. And they feel nothing about it. And then as soon as they walk away from you, they delete their history on Tinder, and you can't prove it anymore. And this poor lady, I don't know how it happened to her, but the woman she was going out with had a husband, and on the third date, the two of them ganged up on her and they killed her after they did God knows what to her. So she ended up dying, and they dismembered her, and that's when they found her body. And it was just freaky to everybody because nobody thought, like, oh, on a first or I mean, like on a second or a third date, that something like that could happen. But obviously, these people were setting her up. And her friend did try to tell her to be careful on the dating apps. And she asked for the pictures of the person, and she let the other people know where the date was going and to be at her house or their house. Where is it going to be? Your house, my house, in public, what's going on? I need to have the information in case something happens to you. And also, don't ever show your personal site to somebody until you're sure that you're safe. The founder of this urban dating website agrees that it's best to be cautious, especially with somebody you meet online. I think it's important to understand how easily the information you put out there can be used to research you, and that's what narcissists do. And that's what I keep telling ladies to do. Don't just let the evil perpetrator get away with this. Be active in pursuing your safety. Do they want to love bomb you and make you feel like you're safe until they get the first opportunity to take advantage of you? Well, the data may be slight. Tinder-related murders have in fact happened in the past. December 2016, a 26-year-old woman in Mexico went missing after having gone on several Tinder dates with a guy her age. And she went to visit a guy, and then she never came back. Her bones were found in a trash bag in his home, and he had dissolved her body in hydrochloric acid when she refused to have sex with him. Another one is in April, a man in Winnipeg, Canada, a guy named Jeff went to women, and then an 18-year-old boy after connecting on Tinder. All three assailants are currently facing charges of robbery, assault, and extortion in 2014 in New Zealand for a woman that they were trying to take advantage of. Then there's this really, really weird one that happened. And find my place here. So this person that was dating the woman, the New England woman, she had met a man on Tinder, according to CNN. Prosecutors alleged that he choked her and trapped her. He was initially charged with manslaughter and acquitted in 2016. I remember hearing the woman interview on how she went to visit the guy. And again, don't visit people at their house. He was humongous and pretty much had his way with her as soon as she walked in the house. So they were going to meet and have the date over, I guess, at his house. Why she would have put herself in that position, I don't know. But when she got there and she walked in the house, he pretty much said, hey, you're coming in the bedroom to have sex with me. And at first, she didn't say anything about it. She went ahead and let him carry her off because she was afraid and needed to have a safe place. And he just carried her off to the bedroom instead of letting her try to, get away from him, and started having sex with her right away. People. Now, if you don't want to do that, that's, then don't put yourself in that predicament. I would never suggest, even after a third date, I'm going to a man's house to meet him, unless you're sure that, something happens sexually, that you're not going to feel bad about it. Don't be running off with the first person you meet on Tinder. Sydney Loof, according to a signed affidavit, was dismembered with tools the couple had gotten at Home Depot, because they were trying to say that the murder had not been premeditated. It's something that just happened. Well, if that's the case, why were you two shopping at Home Depot buying the things that you dismembered the lady with? You know what I'm saying? That just don't even make sense. So they were able to prove, going through court, that no, you guys definitely did plan it, and that's what got them put away. In Wilbur, Nebraska, 40 miles southwest, Lincoln police obtained a search warrant and searched the apartment after the landlord reported a strong smell of bleach. I think we all know, just like John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer, all those multiple serial killers, when you smell bleach, there's something going on. With the police on their tail, the couple began uploading bizarre series of crafts videos on social media, insisting that they were innocent of this murder of Sydney Loof. And the police were trying to chase them down, and they were eventually found in a hotel near Branson, Missouri on November 30th, and then taken back to Nebraska. So Sydney just didn't disappear after one date with these people. Sydney, I don't think she even knew that the lady was married, and was willing to go out a second time with the lady because she liked her so much. I just wanted to touch base that there is one more that was really, 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 really weird. There was a Virginia Tech student, and he was really a young kid. I kind of feel sorry for him. He got caught up in everything. But, what's up with Virginia Tech? I mean, they must get some really different personality types, because they've had so many incidents of violence at this college alone. This kid was a football player there, and he ended up getting on Tinder and meeting a person he thought was a female. And this person was a lot older, and the football player got together, and there was, I guess, oral sex that had happened between the two of them. And then he went away. I don't know what happened to start him thinking. He was wondering if the person who had had oral sex with him was a female or not. And a few weeks had gone by, and that a 2A, I'm not sure how you say his name, ended up going to Andrew Smith's apartment. And he got into the apartment and assaulted the guy, trying to figure out if his gender, if he was a male or a female. And then when he found out that the guy was playing at being a female, was indeed a male, the football player lost it. I mean, he lost it, and he just beat the guy to death. Now, I know something had been happening to be bothering him, because he took two of his friends over there, but when he got to the apartment, he asked the friends to stay out. And I don't know if there was a little, romantic stuff that was going on between them when he started to figure out that it might be a guy, and if things went from there or not, or if he heard something and went from there and then just totally lost it. And this has caused a lot of, drama with the LGBTQ community. They don't think that people should be asking people's gender. If it looks like a lady, assume that it is. And I think I understand where they're coming from a certain point of view. But people like to have even, special dogs. I mean, if you want a dachshund, you're going to look for a dachshund. If you want a chihuahua, you're going to look for a chihuahua. And you'll spend a lot of money to make sure you get a dachshund or a chihuahua. I am not comparing people to animals by any respect. I'm just saying people go after what they want. And if you're telling them you're one thing and you're not that, you're going to get upset people. I don't think that's ever going to change. And I feel sorry for these people that get caught up in it and want to be one thing and they're not that. But a lot of us want to be different things in life, and it just doesn't happen. I wanted to be rich. I wanted to have a working marriage. I wanted to have a family and kids, and that came over to my house when I became a grandmother all the time. And it's something that I'm just never going to have, So there's got to be a place of understanding in there somewhere. And people have got to realize that if you go around calling yourself Angie and you're an Andrew, and people think that you're a biological female, there could be repercussions from that. And I'm not sure there's any easy answers on how to take care of that at all. But it would behoove you to be careful and make sure before you get into these situations that you're getting into what you want. Otherwise, you could end up on the wrong side of the rope, losing your temper as well. And so there's another one here where there's a Grace and Rolls Mullane. There's apparently going to be a movie or docuseries about this one. In December 2018, a British tourist comes to New Auckland from Auckland, New Zealand, and she goes there to visit a 28-year-old man named Jesse Kempson. And he was charged with murder December 28th. Her body was found in the Walk of Ranges to the west of Auckland. The following day, campers found her. His name was suppressed by the New Zealand courts, meaning that it could not be published. Some people found out who he was and published it anyway, and that she had met the man on Tinder and recently graduated, wanted to go backpacking, and they went off and had a little bit of fun. The parents became concerned when they hadn't heard from her, and they were like, oh, well, we'll hear from her later. But then her birthday came and it left, and then they were sure something was wrong. That's when they contacted the police. There was no evidence of foul play to what they saw. Evelyn's evidence that she was no longer alive because of the dead body found, and the body fit the description. So again, she had known them very long, and then they went off and did their thing, which is really sad. And then the last one I wanted to talk about was a lady who had come from New Zealand, and she went to Australia. She wanted to visit her girlfriends who were getting married. So she goes out there to visit them, and she gets into a Tinder date with the guy. And they start going out. They eventually end up at her apartment. They had met at a club and then ended up at his house. They had drank at the club, and then they went to his house, and they were drinking some grain alcohol that he had made. And so then after that, I guess she got really, really drunk. And she got mad at him and started accusing him of trying to keep her phone. And she started getting really, really mad. And she's like, why do you have my phone? I want it back. And he's like, I don't have your phone. I don't know what's going down. And he tries to calm her down. And the next thing you know, she's picking stuff up and throwing stuff at him. He had like decorative rocks on his table, and she's throwing them at him and cussing him out and saying this and that and this. And he's trying to get her to calm down. And his name was Gable Tosti. And he lived in Australia, and he did the, what do you call it, the Tinder thing, dating thing all the time. And the lady's name, oh, let me find that here. I lost my place. The lady was, like I said, visiting. She'd come to attend a wedding. They were getting on pretty good until she got really drunk. And then it was like, oh, well, now I'm, stuck here and I'm really drunk. She wanted to get home, and he was telling her, just calm down. I think he was thinking that if he got her to calm down, they might be able to still have sex together. But that wasn't happening. She started freaking out. She threw rocks at him. He asked her to stop, and she just kept escalating and escalating. Pardon me. Eventually, she took part of a telescope and hit him. So he grabs her and he pushes her out onto the veranda. And they're like 18 floors above in an apartment house. And she's really freaks out. You can hear it because he ended up recording the whole thing because he was afraid of what would happen, and he didn't want to be, accused of anything later. So he's got the phone recording, and you can hear him arguing. And there's a point there where the court say that he tried to strangle her. But I don't know. You'd have to listen to it. It's kind of a long tape. I'm not sure he's actually trying to choke her because he keeps trying to calm her down all the time. And then, she just becomes enraged, and she goes outside, and you can hear it on the tape that he recorded. He closes the door, and I think he's telling her something like he's going to grab her. She can't get anything of her things and belongings. He's going to carry her out because he's just done with it. He doesn't want any more of this going on. And she's like, open the door, open the door. And she's pounding on the door, and you can hear her just getting like really escalated, frantic. And then the next thing you know, she decides she's going to try to climb down the building. Now, I don't believe if she had been as drunk as she was, she wouldn't even have tried to do that. Well, one lady who was sitting below them saw her legs or her feet coming over the balcony. And the next thing you know, she falls. And it was such a brutal, brutal fall and death. And he completely freaks out when this happens. He goes down to the basement and he goes out through the parking area so that nobody can find him or talk to him. And then he said he went walking around for 2 hours, and he ended up having to go have pizza because he had to try to straighten himself out. Well, the tape or his cell phone tape ended up clearing him, and he ended up not being considered guilty in her death. And maybe he didn't hit her, but I think, her drinking that alcohol, that serious amount of alcohol with a very high alcohol content in it, wasn't helpful to her at all. And that may have made the difference in the change in her personality. And then she's not cognizant. She is drunk. She does become afraid. And who knows what her past experiences have been. So she feels that she needs to try to get out of this situation. Well, that caused her to, cost her life, basically. And then when he realized that the police and the ambulance and everything was going on, he did not want to be questioned. So he took off out the building. And then he ended up having to come forward and going through the whole trial, and that phone saved him. Okay. Then he moves away and he changes his name. And one day he's just walking along and hears some crying or screaming. And he goes in a motel room, and there's this woman locked in the bathroom, and there's a daughter out there, and she says, oh, my mom's trying to commit suicide. And he's trying to talk her out of it. And then the hotel staff comes up and they kick him out. And then he's in the news again. At this point, he had changed his name. Well, I guess now a few years have gone by, and guess what? He has went back on Tinder. That's what I'm telling you, lady. He is back on Tinder now. So, y'all, if you want to be dating on Tinder, and I can understand the need for, whatever it is that gets done on there, but I do think that you should look for an alternative. I do think there is a safer way to get out there and to have that. I mean, back in the day, there was, places you could go and describe your fetish or your sexual need, and you could be there around other people, but the important thing is that these people were vetted. I mean, it wasn't just strangers walking around, like in a sex club or whatever. And maybe we just need to get back to that like it was in the 70s, or maybe it's more in depth than that. I don't know. I'm not really one of those people, but I imagine that there is an underworld of sex out there where you can do it a little more safely than doing it on Tinder. So, y'all, if you want to date on a dating app, have at it. But while you're dating, remember, pay attention to the true clues around you and keep yourself safe. I hope you enjoyed my chat and that you will come back for more later. Have a good night.